know, nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
And good evening from your Vikings 7-seed headquarters. This is Purple Daily, Purple After Dark, daily Vikings entertainment presented by Surly Brewing Company and our friends at TCL. Someone sent us a photo of, I don't know if it was a TCL TV, but a Bears fan destroyed their TV. First of all, if you're a Bears fan and you're still that emotionally attached and don't foresee things like that happening, then that's on you. And secondly, don't kill the messenger. Don't be bashing a great TV like a TCL TV, one of the best-selling consumer electronics brands in the country. New lineup of award-winning TVs, entertainment, stunning resolution, affordable cost, all of those things. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. How are we celebrating an Eagles victory over the Washington football team, solidifying the Vikings in the 7th seed in the NFC playoff race with 3 weeks to go after a big road victory in primetime, boys? Who's feeling it right now?
I'll let Randy go first.
No?
I'll let Randy go.
Well, when you consider the additions this offseason and all the hype that came along with this team, I mean, the 7th seed, we're right where we were hoping to be, right? Because going up against the Bears last night, gentlemen, it was very interesting to see our quarterback struggle to get not even 90 yards in the air against a Chicago secondary that consisted of, I'm only guessing, guys that before Monday night was selling commercial real estate. The interior offensive line against Akeem Hicks, don't know what happened there. I'm sure everything's going to be all squared away by the time that Aaron Donald comes to town. And the Chicago Bears, they kept shooting themselves in the foot. That team is just a complete disaster. But if that concoction of cereal and ketchup wasn't sexy enough, the added topping of, and I'm sarcastic by nature, but I'm dead serious when I say this. That was the worst officiated game I've ever seen in my life.
It was rough.
I mean, whether we're talking about calling phantom penalties that weren't really there or missing obvious penalties that were there. But you know what? The Vikings are now 7-7. They have a chance to not only control their own destiny, they have a chance to get over 500 for the first time since 2019. So the stars are looking great for the Minnesota Vikings right now. Going up against the LA Rams next week, I'm so excited. I'm just going to have faith in this team because the 7th seed, that's what it's all about when it comes to this team.
The standings are as such. The Niners have the 6th seed with an 8-6 record. Vikings now in the 7th seed at 7-7, tied record-wise with the Eagles and the Saints, but the Vikings have the tiebreaker. So it comes down to, first they sort it by conference win-loss record, and the Vikings have that over the Saints. And then we're going down the list of tiebreakers for Vikings-Eagles, record or winning percentage in common games against common opponents. So it's razor thin right now for that final playoff spot, Judd, in the National Football Conference.
Yeah, and so I actually took time to look this up after tonight's Eagles win against the WFT. The Eagles have left on their schedule the Giants, I believe, on Sunday. That's a tough one. Giants are
Yeah.
gritty club. Yeah. Followed by, I believe, a rematch with Washington. But then their Week 18 opponent is the Cowboys, which everybody could be locked in by then.
The Cowboys will not be playing starters in that game.
So yeah, we'll see. But this is the National Football League has exactly what it wants, which is just a huge pillow fight for that 7th seed. Just everyone's going to be swinging pillows around.
Can I'd like to apologize for something real quick here that just struck me. You guys are both mentioning the Rams. And by the way, that's Realistic Randy. You can find him also on his own YouTube channel. He's one of the OG callers into Vikings Vent Line back in the day. He's a friend of Purple Daily here. And you can find him with us on Purple After Dark every Tuesday night. So last week, I was doing some self-scouting tonight on behalf of the Vikings. the Seahawks and the Rams were playing, and I wanted to see what the Rams look like. And also the Seahawks, like, I think they won a couple games in a row. They were sitting at 5-8, and if they get hot, they might factor into that 7-seed race. And so I kept my eye on that game tonight. A week ago on Mackie and Judd, we brought up, actually it was on Reckless Speculation Thursday, the Pioneer Press article that linked Pete Carroll, if he becomes available, to the Minnesota Vikings. And Charlie Walters doesn't just throw that out. Like, he's getting that from somebody that Pete Carroll was a Vikings assistant coach back in the day 30 years ago, and so there's a connection there. And Judd and I got into this hypothetical, and Judd said, absolutely no way, no how, no chance. Do not touch Pete Carroll. And I said, well, wait a second. Hear it out for a second. Pete Carroll's a better version of Mike Zimmer. I think he would have a better chance to come in here and, be more of a player-friendly coach. Okay, after watching that game tonight and watching about 5 Seahawks games, I'm with Judd. And I apologize for even entertaining the Pete Carroll idea that went bonkers on that Mackie and Judd episode last week. I have no desire for Pete Carroll in any universe to be the Vikings head coach in 2022. So, Judd, I apologize for even sparring with you in a Reckless Speculation segment.
It got out of control. It got out of control. It got reckless. It got careless. But yeah, I am out on Pete as well.
Okay, well, he's a better version of Mike Zimmer, but why would you want any version of Mike Zimmer? With
Listen,
this team
I
Phil's just trying to backtrack from that take.
I'm the Kool-Aid guy and Family Guy right now.
Oh yeah.
I'm the Homer Simpson meme right now. The GIF just going back into the bushes.
Okay? What if that 2001 Toyota Corolla? You can get that 95 Volvo and Pete Carroll. Those cars just keep turning out, man. They keep turning out.
Dude, you guys. I read through that whole Doug Pederson article today. Speaking of retreads, Doug Pederson wrote the most perfect PR-driven article on this 33rdteam.com or something, and it was all about how you build a championship quarterback room. And it was basically a bat signal to every team in the NFL with either a young quarterback or a Kirk Cousins or a defensive-minded coach they're thinking about firing, saying, hey, this is how I built a championship quarterback room in 2017, and this is what I will do for your organization if you hire me.
That was, it sounds like a personal note to one Shad Khan, Jacksonville, FLA. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about.
Or was it to the McCaskies? I think he wants Jacksonville,
and they can talk to him starting next Monday, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yep, they can.
Hey, Nick Foles! Look what he did with Nick Foles, Doug Pederson. Why wouldn't you want to do that with Kirk Cousins? Make him a Super Bowl champion.
People mock the Doug Pederson thing, but and I know that
I would love it.
That dude, if you get the version that they got in 2017, then you'd sign up for that for sure, I would think.
Well, yeah, and going back specifically to 2017 when they called the Philly, I saw the coverage on that, like the actual film footage on that, where I think in between plays, Foles went to the sidelines and said, hey, Philly, what do you think? And Pederson was like, yeah, all right, go ahead. He trusted his quarterback. I don't know if you would ever see something like that with any quarterback and Mike Zimmer at all.
Mike would be like, what are you talking about? Get out of here, man. Where's my defensive guys to talk?
Do you think Mike Zimmer even recite 10 of the Vikings offensive plays verbatim? Do you think
power?
All right, Mike. You're calling plays, buddy, with no play chart.
Pain in the ass right.
Screen. Power.
So
left or right.
So Randy, I think the biggest thing, the biggest I think thread on Ventline the other night or last night was fans are so conflicted here because in the micro, they're in the 7th seed, and a lot of fans are still just I think most fans are still rooting for wins because there's no reason to root for tanking at this point. They're not trying to fight for a top 5 pick. So trying to root for the best possible outcome for this year and clinging to some sort of hope over the next month plus, but then also acknowledging all these macro issues and how bad the team has looked against the Bears and the Lions. And so where are you at now going into these last 3 games? Are you still just soulless and emotionless as you watch this game against the Rams and then the Packers, or where are you at?
I'm still very much soulless, but at the same time, my position has been clear from the very beginning of this season. NFC Championship game or bust. Do whatever you want. I mean, however far you get into the playoffs, if you actually make it there, because I know right now it's fun to talk about Vikings. Okay, they have the 7th spot, they control their own destiny, but with this schedule, with this remaining schedule that you have, LA, I mean, that's going to be a tough game. Green Bay, they're going to still be presumably playing for seeding to keep that number 1 seed in the NFC for that bye week in the first round. So that's going to be a tough schedule. So even if you make it into the playoffs, that's still a question mark. But I am very much soulless with this team. I'll still watch because I still cover the team on my YouTube channel. But there have been times in my life, I can't think of any specific example, where stupid stuff will just happen all the time. And then I would always get mad. And let's say, okay, I'll go outside, get ready for work, and okay, I left my keys in the house, and it takes a half hour for me to find my keys. Or I go to tie my shoes, I fall on the ground, I knock over a glass of milk, everything falls. And then you get angry, and it happens all the time. And then eventually you just laugh at it. It's like, this is just what it is. That's the Minnesota Vikings. They are the keys that I cannot find at the last second. They are that glass of milk that spills when I need to get out in a jam. NFC Championship game or bust. The fact that we're sitting here, I've been saying this whole time on this stream, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it in as a 7th seed, because that's just what the Vikings do. And what are we talking about right now? The 7th seed. All that talent they got this offseason. 7th seed. That's what we're looking at. Hell yeah.
It was a good run for Bashad Breeland, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Some sort of weird like altercation that they're not really talking about, and then they just decided we'd rather just not have him, even though there's COVID. People are dropping like flies because of COVID. Like, we're better off with this dude just off the roster for the last month.
So don't you guys think, though, to the point about like, are they going to make it? Do you care at this point? Because I'm so far removed from like being mad. I'm disappointed. Yeah. Like, I'm the parent. I'm disappointed. I still love you, but I'm disappointed. And so my overall grand feeling about this team now is, you know what? Go ahead and win. Like, that's fine. 7 seed, because I don't think you're going to get the 6. So like you might get in as the 7 seed. Go ahead. I don't hate the ride, but I'm done with the ride. And so I'll take it for the rest of the way. Like, I'm not going to get off the ride right now. I'm not mad enough to like bail off. But I need it to be done then. Yeah. So like the only way I would go back to being mad is if they get in the playoffs. Like, let's say they pull a shocking win in the first round and then lose, and then they're like, everybody's coming back. Then I'd be like, are you serious? Are we really going to rewind this tape?
Yeah.
But if we are going to get to the end of the ride and get the appropriate changes, which to me, at the very least, begin with a coaching change, I'm fine with it.
All right. I feel like I have to bring a metaphor now too, because Randy brought it's like when you lose your keys and you're just like clumsily spilling things, and then Judd brought the sort of the Valley Fair. So I'll bring you one, like when you're watching TV shows. You guys ever get 3 or 4 seasons into a show on Netflix or whatever? You're watching a show on demand and you're thinking to yourself, all right, like season 1 was definitely awesome. Season 2 was fine. Now I'm in season 4, and it's definitely not a train wreck. I'm still interested in watching it to some extent, but there's probably way better shows out there. If I were to just decommit from this show, I could probably find a better show that's much more entertaining, but you just keep watching the next episode and the next episode. That's the Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins era of Vikings football. Like, there's definitely better episodes out there. There's better coaches. There's better quarterbacks that don't cost you $45 million against the cap in 2022. But it's like, yeah, but it's not, it kind of entertains me. It's not the Jets. That show's terrible. Boy, the Lions and the Texans, like, I would never watch that garbage. At least I get to watch the Vikings on a regular basis, and Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins. That's my metaphor.
I'll give you the show too. This is now Mike and Kirk. It's the end of the Ted Danson, Shelley Long run and Cheers before she left.
Okay.
It's like, it's Cheers. You got to keep watching it, right? And it's like, but she is so annoying now. And like,
but Case Keenum's not on the roster anymore.
Yeah, but like Kirk and Mike, because they are the starting point of the two stars who are just like, they don't work together now. It doesn't work at all. And it's like, you keep going back and watching, but you're like, I really don't like the main characters that much.
All right,
we need new main characters.
Can I go now too for metaphor? Because
I think you almost have. Now you have to. You have no choice.
I got one too. Go ahead.
Okay, so today I did the last of my Christmas shopping for my nephews. There were the two I had to get, 9 and 7 years old, and my sister told me that they wanted these double inflatable sleds. That's what they wanted. I said, perfect. I'll go and find these double inflatable sleds.
What does double inflatable mean?
Like tubes, like inflatable tube sleds for sledding. They want one of those. So I went to a Target, didn't have them. I went to a Dick's Sporting Goods. They didn't have them, but they had like those surfboard sleds, the ones you can like body surf down. Oh, yeah. And I was gonna grab those. And I sent a picture to my sister, and I was literally walking to the checkout lane, and I said, "Hey, I got the older boys 2 sleds." "Oh no, don't get those. Santa already got them for them." And I said, "Well, hold on, wait a minute. Like, you told me to get them inflatable sleds." And she said, "Well, yeah, but inflatable sleds are different than body sleds." And I said, "Caitlin, that's under the umbrella of sleds. So now what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to
Why would you get Dalvin Tomlinson when you already have Michael Pierce?
Exactly. Pretty much. So then I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find these GD inflatable sleds. So I went from Minneapolis to Roseville at Dick's Sporting Goods, all the way back to Eden Prairie at Shields to find these inflatable sleds. And I bent over backwards to figure out this damn toy for my 2 nephews who I love. That's what I do for the Vikings. I bend over backwards and I go over to toy to toy to toy to find the one thing to appease them, because deep down they have my heart, and I can't get away from them, and I'll do whatever it takes to please them.
You also just described their entire offseason of like, here's all the defensive things we're going to go store to store to store looking for. It's
Mike
like, actually, now there's a different store over here that has offensive linemen that you might want to go shopping at. Might help you more.
I think the question, Dex, though, is do they have your heart right now with this team? Because that's where I'm just checked out. But I mean, I still care about the team.
Dude, someone just dropped a comment that said, in 42 years as a Vikings fan, this is the least attached emotionally that they've ever been. I sense that too. It feels like the team's not even emotionally attached.
Yeah,
like that. We talked about this with Boone today. They won a game ugly in Chicago on Monday night, and most teams with self-esteem, with football self-esteem, and most teams that know that they can play at a high level are going to sort of laugh off an ugly win at Chicago and say, well, you know what? Well, we certainly didn't play our best football, but let's celebrate this, baby. We got to celebrate these grimy, greasy victories. And they're so football insecure. I mean, the first words out of Mike Zimmer's mouth when he addresses the team in the locker room after that game was, "It's a good win, guys. Now, it doesn't always have to be that way. It doesn't always have to be that way." It's like, guy, it's middle of December. It's always that way, and you're not embracing it. Like, the team's not embracing it. The fans aren't embracing the team. It just feels – the whole thing feels off.
I've followed this team for 21 years. This is the first time – I've been angry with this team, sure, but this is the first time where I just don't care. And to Judd's point, I'm with him in the fact that I'm content with whatever happens. But my God, if they bring this regime back in 22 and say, we're going to do this one more time, it's going to be great. Continuity, everything's going to work itself out. Yeah. Oh my God. I might just blow a head gasket. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I think right now it's the calm before the storm. But to your TV analogy point, weeds. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, Weeds.
I was gonna say the same thing.
It started off so great, and I want to say for the first 3 or 4 seasons, then there was a couple of seasons in the middle where I don't know if I can do this anymore. Even if I miss the rest of the series, I won't care. That's the Minnesota Vikings right now, Weeds, or season 2 of The Wire.
But is there, as you're watching, season 2 of The Wire is a great one because I've never seen Weeds. But as you're watching these shows, you're still thinking to yourself, like, yeah, but I got to stick with this because there's going to be some swerve coming, right? Like something crazy. They're going to kill off a character or something big's going to happen. You know, what was that Netflix show, House of Cards? Spoiler alert.
Oh, there you go.
You know, the first episode of season 2, it's like, what? What just happened? How could that happen, right? And so I stuck with it for 4 or 5 seasons thinking, well, I mean, if they did that in the first episode of season 2, I can't miss an episode. Like they might do that again in season 4 or season 5, and you're just waiting for it.
This team has run its course, though. See, that I'm comfortable with the demise because it's run its course. So it's not like there's another chapter. Like it's gone on too long. It needs to end, and so it doesn't have the potential to come back. We've seen everything that this group right now with Zimmer and I think Rick and Kirk. We've seen everything that as a group they have to offer us, and it's just done, which is why I'm comfortable with it. Like it's the inevitability of death here for football. That's what this is. So it's not like, oh man, if they just get one more piece, right? Like if they get that one more piece, they're going to be in great shape.
Hold on, but let me take the car here and turn it for a second because the Vikings, as of right now, going into next week, are the 7 seed. If the playoffs started today, they would play at Dallas in the first round. Mm-hmm. Dallas is kind of a mess right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think Dallas would be a big favorite over the Vikings. I think maybe they'd be like a 3.5, 4 point favorite. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very gettable game if you're playing this version of the Dallas Cowboys, even on the road. All right, so you win that game. And then I'm trying to think of how does the seeding work out? Is it low seed or would you play?
Yeah. Well, if they were the 7, then they'd go to the 1.
They win, so then they would go and play the Packers in the second round. They've already beat the Packers once this season. Now I get the playing at Lambeau, and they're going to find out in a couple weeks. But so you'd play Dallas in the first round, a very gettable team, and then you'd play a team in the second round that you just beat a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's the crazy thing here. There is no elite team in the NFC unless you think the Packers are it, and if the Packers are it, you already beat them. Arizona Cardinals, you missed a 37-yard field goal that would have beat them. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just got shut out this last week. They didn't score a point
in a playoff game. So you really think that the combination of Kirk and Mike, who get overwhelmed by everything, like they beat the Saints in the Superdome, and we're like, oh my God, what did they do?
I'm saying it is not far-fetched for the Vikings to win a playoff game in the first round. And then what I'm saying is the opponents that they will face in the second round, third round, what have you, are not flawless opponents that are unbeatable. It's like it's all teams that are going to be maybe 5-point favorites at home against the Vikings, like a 6-point favorite. That's all I'm just saying. Like there are scenarios in which they win 2 playoff games,
and their problem is they would introduce so much drama and problems that by the second game they would self-destruct. That's this group. That's this team. That's the problem. That's why I need them, at least the most important ones, gone, because they don't have the ability, because they are a joyless collection of soulless football players. They don't have the ability to do, Phil, what you're talking about, which is an awesome thought.
I think they can beat any of these teams above them once. I don't think they can rattle off 3 straight against those teams.
But the problem
at no point have they shown that ability with Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer.
But even historically, under this regime in the playoffs, when they get that one playoff win, so they've got 2 playoff wins with this head coach, coincidentally against the same team. When they win that first playoff game, that's the Super Bowl for this team. They get that. Now, the Minneapolis Miracle, I kind of get it. That was a lightning in a bottle play. That was amazing. But at the same time, you still need to get ready for the next game. But even going back to 2019, that walk-off win to Kyle Rudolph in the end zone, and then they go to Santa Clara against the Niners, and it's just we did all our celebrating last week. It's just I could certainly see them winning a playoff game. But, my God, the teams, if you're talking about being a real championship contending team, which I don't think the Vikings are, but for those teams that actually are, They don't just look at it as, okay, we won a playoff game, we're set now. You got to take it game by game. And the Vikings, even if they were to pull off that one playoff win going into the next game, can they do it? They haven't shown that they've been able to do it at all.
I know what you guys would say. I know all four of us would say the same thing. It's just like unless you completely shock the world and go NFC Championship game or further, then there has to be changes. Like there's got to be a coaching change, maybe a front office change. Got to be changes. But if the scenario I just laid out plays itself out, let's say you get to the playoffs, 7 seed, you play Dallas in the first round, you beat Dallas on the road, and then in the second round, let's say you lose you don't get smoked like that Niners playoff game or the Eagles playoff game from 2017, but you play a hard-fought game at Lambeau Field or at Tampa Bay or something, and you lose by a touchdown, whatever, but you fight. Do you think the Wilfs will make changes?
No.
Or do you think they will say, the team came to life and let's just find a way to reinforce this thing?
No, they're soft. As far as being football owners, they are soft. They're the Office. Once Michael Scott left and they kept saying, okay, everything's going to be fine. Oh, they brought in Will Ferrell. We thought he was going to take over. No, then we're going to bring in somebody else. No, everything's going to work out. We promise. They're soft. They're afraid. You talked about this earlier, Phil. Well, at least we're not the Jets. You know what? That's true. But you want to know what's worse than that? A team that teases you, that gives you hope, that maybe there's a chance. We middle around for all of our history, but man, that hope, maybe we can break through this one time. We talk about seasons of TV shows, 3 or 4 seasons, and that, okay, well, maybe season 5 will be better. This is, for me, 21 years of watching the same TV show. Okay, I know the Wolf brothers, they haven't been around that entire time, but I have seen nothing from them to suggest that they are going to take this team by the horns and say, we need to make changes, because you know what? We're not the Jets. We're not the Lions, even though you lost to the Lions. But man, if we get to the playoffs and we win that first playoff game, get to the second game and lose by touchdown, maybe there's something there. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's over. But no, I don't see them doing it because they're soft.
I'll give you, since we're throwing, we got like a list of 6 TV show comparisons here, and I love it. I'll throw a 7th one on the mix here. I have been a diehard wrestling fan my whole life, outside of like a 3-year period during like the first Brock Lesnar run, and then I caught up on all that on WD Network. Monday Night Raw has been garbage for like 15 years. But they'll pop up once in a while just enough to kind of tease you like, oh man, they brought back so-and-so. Or what about that one angle? And it kind of keeps you hooked. And like only recently did I finally cut bait on Monday Night Raw, like 6 months ago. For the first time in years, I was like, I'm out on Monday Night Raw. I'm an AEW guy, all right? I went from Mike Zimmer, and I found my Sean McVay, and that's AEW. But they keep, like, they plant enough seeds to where you're like, oh, man, what if...
It's almost Rumble time, Phil.
Yep, it's the Rumble. But, like, who's going to come back? Like, what's the surprise angle, the hook going to be, right?
But who would be foolish enough to, let's say they beat Dallas and they played the Packers close. You'd be a fool to say, oh, this is real. 2022, this could... I mean, you would have to be an idiot at this point. We're 4 guys sitting here who covered the team and watched them closely, but we're not around them on a daily basis, and we know the flaws. So, what moron who's inside would be like, oh, this is good enough? Like, and for the Wilfs, the one thing that should be readily apparent here is these people have been very successful in business, right? Business-wise, this is now failing. Like this is not this convoluted, boy, if we just replace this piece with this piece and then got this right guy here, it's perfect. You got some good employees here, but the overall hierarchy of the structure that's failing you from a business standpoint is readily apparent. So I just don't know who would be a big enough moron to watch this and say, play the Packers close in the playoffs, beat the Cowboys. That's us. That's the
thing. But it's not failing them from a business standpoint. In fact, I could argue that by keeping every season within like a game or two of 500, it's actually helping them from a business standpoint. It's keeping people more interested. It's getting people to stay at games longer.
Oh yeah, no.
It's getting people to listen and watch the games more.
I'm saying, as a businessman, this is relatable. The football ops is relatable to a business that has problems at the top. So yes, fans are coming, and they are still, and the Wilfs are very, very, very rich. I get that, but what I'm saying is Zimmer and Spielman and Kirk, if they are the three chief football ops folks, you look at them right now, and you'd be an idiot to say this is working.
Well, and
it's
then,
not working.
And to what you're saying, I almost feel like the ownership has built in no accountability structure for what happens when you don't attain Super Bowl contender status, right? Like it's almost like they've set the bar at getting into the playoffs as a wild card team is a success, and then everything after that is gravy. And so for you to keep your job, or for you to, basically for you to remain employed as a coach, as a quarterback, and to keep getting contracts, all you have to do is clear this relatively easy bar, which is the last wild card spot. And if you do that, we're certainly not going to fire you, and it's going to be hard for us to get too upset with you because, you delivered postseason football once every other year. And I know that in their minds they're thinking, well, if we set the bar higher, then we're probably going to come short of it more often than not, because how many teams are just besides the Patriots for 20 years, are just always contending for Super Bowls? And we also don't want to risk not being relevant. We don't want to blow out a bunch of good coaches, front office people, and a good quarterback and risk going 3 wins, 4 wins. And I just think that's where they're paralyzed as an ownership group. They just sit there and they're like, well, I mean, it's not terrible. So you can't just fire everyone for going to the playoffs, can you? And it's probably the same conversation year after year in the offseason, if it even is a conversation.
Then if that is the case, congratulations. You are the Marvin Lewis-led Cincinnati Bengals forever. That is a loser's mentality, and you're never going to get anywhere. Fans are going to attend the stadiums. They're going to buy merchandise and all that stuff. I'm just speaking for me. Certainly, I will still come out to the Twin Cities, but if you think I'm going to spend $100 on another jersey or $40 on a hat just because the logo is cool and the colors are nice and all that stuff, hell no. This team, from what I gather based on their actions, this team, they do not care about me as a fan. I'm speaking for me. You're not going to get anywhere with that loser's mentality. I talked about how the Chargers with Marty Schottenheimer, after going 14-2 and losing in the first round, they fired him. The Eagles, I mean, goodness, they had a real reason to keep Andy Reid along. You made it to 4 straight NFC championship games, a Super Bowl appearance, but they cut ties with him. And we're sitting here, all that considered, we're scratching tooth and nail to keep a regime that's, well, they can get into the playoffs once in a while. Are we serious right now? You're a joke of a franchise. So you don't have the right to then say, oh my God, how are we going to get to the next step? You're not trying to get to the next step. You're not. You're pretending like you are.
If you guys could, I'm going to take the Chiefs off the board here, but if you guys could swap the Vikings out for any other franchise's next 5 years, as you look around in jealousy at some of the other teams and franchises, and again, I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs off the board because I think that's an obvious answer with, 2 straight Super Bowls, 1 title, and Patrick Mahomes. But who would you want to come in here? We would take that team and we would put them in Vikings uniforms, and you would now be following that team.
Can I run the team?
Go for it.
What? No.
But what I'm saying is, can I decide on the coach and GM?
No, you get their situation as is.
I need to make the decisions. There's too many foolish fans.
You're saying You're saying I'm giving you 30 options around the league,
I've got a team.
and there's not a GM coach combo with a team that you're happy with?
I've got the perfect team, but I need to make the decisions.
Okay, let's hear it.
So there's no perfect team. Not for Judd right now.
In the NFL, it's really flawed, but I'm fine with that.
So
I'm
you're
cool
saying
with
you're
that.
better than the 30 current general manager coach combinations?
No,
Judd Zulgad.
no. You misheard me. I'm better than the owners.
Owner.
The owners are fan. Not no. See, this is the thing. I don't game plan. I don't. But the team that I would love to own and swap with right now is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
What?
Ton of salary cap room, a quarterback who I think is legitimately going to be great if he has the right infrastructure, a team that's got a blank template, and this league,
I'll take the Chargers and beat you for 5 years.
And no, this league, if you do it right, if you have smart people in charge who aren't egomaniacs, who aren't crazed, you can. This league, you can do something quick. I would love to take my chance with Jacksonville. It is a blank canvas with a Monet at quarterback potentially.
I lean Ravens. I lean Ravens. Randy is where I would go. I lean Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, you get John Harbaugh, you get Lamar Jackson, who's not been good this season, but
I would lean Ravens is where I would go.
See, I would think the Rams, but when you talk about 5 years, Matthew Stafford, I'm not sure. But taking that into consideration, Chargers, Bills. I would take either of those two teams for the next 5 years. Young quarterbacks, nice weapons. They can build something.
Yeah, and the Bills, I almost feel like the Bills taken out of Buffalo and put inside US Bank Stadium would be a better fit for them anyways, because they want to be a track meet passing team anyways.
Yeah.
And that's like the best versions of Vikings teams the last 20 or 30 years have been more track meet offensive teams, with the exception of the 2017 defensive season. So I think Justin Herbert's incredible. He's got a ridiculous arm. He seems like he's just obsessed with football and prep and film, and people seem to laud his leadership and everything he's bringing behind the scenes there too. And he's 23 years old. He's a big dude who's not just going to get, knocked on his ass and hurt for a season. So I would swap with the Chargers personally. I'm also just like jonesing for an ironclad franchise quarterback. I don't know that Trevor Lawrence is that. I think he's going to be, but he has not looked good this season.
I'd love to take that shot with my people in charge. What scares me too,
who are your people
about the Bills? I would go out if I could get a coach and GM. I would have a great fighting chance of doing a better job. Look, the Bills are owned by the Pagulas, who are actively screwing up the Sabres and have done a good job with the Bills thus far, but are usually eventually wrong and despised. I don't trust them. The Chargers, owned by the Spanoses, long history of screw-ups, solid franchise, but they've never climbed the mountain.
Yeah, but you could have chosen Sean McVay for 5 years, and you said no. I'm going to go and start over with the Jaguars.
Because I want no. I would rather have the Jaguars with my people in charge, a coach and GM, than Matthew Stafford playing for McVay. Now, if I could get McVay to coach my team with Lawrence, I love my chances then. Okay. I need to craft.
Then give me Belichick, and I'm going to put him with Justin Herbert and take the Patriots.
If you can get him away from the Patriots, that's awesome. That's awesome. But you got to find the right people. And this
I'm going to resurrect Vince Lombardi.
This is what the Wills need to do. This is the important thing that they need, and for at least a few months here, what they need to stop doing is being fans, and what they need to start doing is being savvy football business people and get the right people in place, and then you back off.
Real quick, people are accusing Judd in the comment section of drinking Surly, and I think he will happily wear that badge.
God, I would happily drink a Surly. You know what? In fact, Surly would be the beer that I would serve in my stadium, because Surly Furious with Trevor Lawrence playing quarterback with my up-and-coming team, everything about it would be perfect. Surly Furious is the beer of choice in Zulgad Phi Stadium, whatever we would call it. Zulgad Phi Stadium, Judd Phi Stadium. That's my beer, baby. Surly.
Let's get it.
I mean, as far as the ownership thing, I do kind of agree with Judd in a sense that, if nothing else, being an owner, even if you know nothing about the sport, it's common sense. So going maybe apples to oranges here, I'm a Mavericks fan. And years ago, when they were going after Darren Williams, when he was a superstar point guard, Mark Cuban didn't make the meeting because he was too busy filming Shark Tank. I'm like, WTF, dude? What are you doing?
I need to see Ziggy
meet
on Shark
with this
Tank
guy.
someday.
He
you
ended up
serious?
going. I'm dead serious. He ended up
Oh my
going to
God.
the Brooklyn,
That's
I guess the New Jersey Nets at the time.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
in the case of the Wolf brothers, I mean, this clearly is not where. If nothing else, I don't know Joaquin Phoenix's character in Gladiator. I forgot. I haven't seen that movie in so long. But if nothing else, if you're an owner and you see your team just once in a while, right? Declan's right there. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Make changes, damn it. Even if you don't know what to do, hire someone to do it for you.
Ziggy on Shark Tank.
Common sense.
What needs to happen for Ziggy to sit there with that goofy little mustache just sitting on Shark Tank? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was really, really bad.
I would keep Rob Brzezinski, by the way. Like I would bring the Chargers in. I would bring Herbert. I would bring the young coaching staff, and then I would keep Rob Brzezinski to just make that inevitable Justin Herbert $50 million a year contract work for my salary cap.
Oh, he'd do a great job. None of it guaranteed, but here's a $500 million contract. Headline: 10-year, $500 million contract. That Culpepper contract's one of the most genius contracts I've ever seen. It's like $12 guaranteed, but it was $100 million.
And wasn't Dante his own agent?
Not at that time. He fired his agent after that in 2005 because he decided he would do his own contract.
What's the point? And he came to this conclusion. What's the point in having an agent if the agent gets you like no guaranteed money as a football player? It's kind of amazing.
Well, because as a player, you trust him not to do that.
Yeah.
So you think my agent's got my back, and the guy's like, and I really didn't. I'm sorry about that one.
Yeah. Okay, since we're going down this speculative path here, I mean, this is kind of reckless speculation Thursday on a Tuesday here.
Reckless speculation.
Speculative gun to the head, Randy. What team does Kirk Cousins play for next year?
Oh, I'm gonna go.
Is it the Vikings?
Randy passed gas, I think. Did you see that? It's like,
all right, Gun. I need to know what regime is here. But assuming that the same one is here, he's playing for the Vikings next year.
Let's say it's the Doug Pederson regime.
I think Doug
Pederson probably wants Kirk Cousins, right?
I think he plays for the Vikings, yeah.
I mean, Pederson probably wants Cousins. He wants to feel out Mond, and then maybe in this article that he penned so eloquently today, he talked about how at every 2 or 3 key stops in his career as a coach, including Philadelphia, their philosophy was draft a new quarterback every year and just have it be survival of the fittest among the backups and just always be cultivating backups.
That's not wrong. You can develop Kellen Mond while Kirk Cousins is still here, or if you continue to draft a quarterback every year, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think if Zimmer or Pederson, Kirk Cousins is here next year.
Well, I agree completely. I guess my question though is this one: what happens if you call Kirk in and say, Kirk, we can't absorb your cap hit for 2022, so we're going to have to extend you? And Kirk's like, okay, show me more money and guarantees. That's my question, because that's going to alter the philosophy then of his employer, right? So I guess my question becomes, what's the number? And if we don't know that makes it so difficult, because at some point in time, everybody would probably bail and say, I just can't do that. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably Kirk, Phil.
Yeah, I think it's like if it's, and I keep using Pederson because I do think he's going to be a candidate if they fire Mike Zimmer. I doubt that he's going to want to come in here and start over at quarterback in a weak quarterback draft. It would be one thing if you had Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and the perceived potential of all the quarterbacks in last year's draft. And the other wild card here is we have no idea how anyone feels about Kellen Mond. There's been, and I'm not ripping anyone here, but there's been no reporting on him. You can't watch him at practice because reporters aren't allowed to watch anything besides team stretching and individual drills. The coaching staff, Mike Zimmer and Clint Kubiak, certainly aren't talking about any progress behind the scenes, and maybe aren't even really being asked about it because there's so many other things to ask those guys. And so, we don't know. We don't know if you traded Kirk Cousins, we don't know if Kellen Mond would be competing for a spot or if he would just be second or third on a backup depth chart. We literally have no idea right now.
We don't know. And I was so excited when they drafted him. And now he's just a guy who's there. And that's really unfortunate. If that's the case, why even draft a quarterback? I just don't believe that they're developing this guy. And even if they were to draft another guy next year, who's to say it's not going to be the same thing? You're going to bring back Sean Mannion again anyway, so who cares?
That's so depressing.
Yeah.
Don't talk like that, Randy. See, that's the type of thing that makes me mad. I don't want to hear that.
Another TV show metaphor. Quick, we need something.
I don't want to hear that. Give me my Jacksonville Jaguar rebuild, damn it, and I'll start new, okay? I'll give you a team to be proud of.
The Jags.
Jaguar pride.
You literally, you could have said the Packers. You could have said, all right, just give me Aaron Rodgers for 3 years.
I want to
He doesn't even know if he wants to be with the Packers next year.
Yeah, no, I want to build something, man. I want to build something, and I want the generational quarterback talent, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be that. What about
the Bengals? I love Joe Burrow. If you could bring the Bengals and absorb them in and put them in purple.
Yeah.
I like Jamar Chase a lot.
Chase.
Zach Taylor.
But are they still owned by the Browns?
Well, no, they're owned by the Wilfs now.
Or okay, because I didn't know what your parameter was.
No,
so
you'd be absorbing them.
I thought you were the owner, Judd.
Well, I'd like to be.
Yeah, you just blew out the owners.
I'd like to be. Yes, if they were owned by the Wilfs and I had Burrow and Chase, that's not a bad. That's a nice little starting point for sure.
Yeah, Browns, and people are saying Browns or Giants. I don't know, man.
I don't want the Browns.
The Giants are
quarterback.
The Giants are starting over at everything. They're going to have a coach, quarterback.
The Giants are going to be blown sky high.
The Browns have a good roster. They've been hampered by injuries, but yeah, I'm not giving Baker money, so I need someone that has a solidified 5+ year guy at quarterback, and preferably someone on a rookie scale contract, so I can build out the rest.
That's
of the
what
roster.
I want. I want the rookie scale contract for a few years still.
Yeah,
but that's why you got Rob Brzezinski to make that magic work, baby. Doesn't matter.
Poor Rob. How many times do these guys go, "Hey, Rob, make this work"?
Call Chad Greenway and Kyle Rudolph again. We need those guys to shave their salaries.
He must tell them at least once, if not twice per year. Okay, I can do this, but it's gonna bite you in the ass at some point.
Do you think Chad Greenway still gets calls from Rob Brzezinski? Hey man, we got to take some off your salary. He's like, I'm a part-time media guy. I don't know what you want from me.
He's calling Kyle up. Rudy.
Kyle's like, I don't even play for you anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're asking.
I'm really old. Leave me alone. I'm sleeping.
It's funny that you mentioned it, because bringing up the point of the quarterback situation, not knowing who the quarterback would be if you let go of Kirk Cousins or you trade Kirk Cousins away. So even if you are to get a new head coach, it almost feels like Doug Pederson is the only fit for this team, unless Eric Bieniemy or Brian Daboll are saying, hell yeah, I want to work with this guy. I want to work with number 8.
And here's another factor here, because Aaron Rodgers spent the entire offseason last year trying to get his way out of Green Bay, winds up going back, and obviously they're the best team in the NFL right now. But if he still wants out of Green Bay, it's much easier contractually for them to say goodbye to him, trade him to the AFC. He can force that to happen much, much more now than he could a year ago or 6 months ago. So if the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers to Denver, or I don't think he's going to retire, but let's say he retires or he's just not the Packers quarterback anymore. This is your division. The Packers have a good roster, but they don't have a quarterback. And I don't think the Justin Fields Bears are ready to pop up and win 10, 11, 12 games, and the Lions are still the Lions. So, you might have a window of 2-3 years where if you can just have competence in some of these key leadership spots and a competent quarterback, that this is your division to win starting in 2022.
No, I don't want that. If that's the case, I want Aaron Rodgers to stay in this division forever until they make a coaching change with the Vikings. Because the last thing I need for this team is that Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere else. Mike Zimmer is still the head coach, and by default, the Vikings are going to win the NFC North division.
And I think what I'm saying is
big ass head coach again, and they'll win a couple of division titles, and oh my God, all is well. And he'll really be untouchable then. No, stay here forever.
Go, Randy.
I agree. I think what I'm saying is Mike Zimmer's fired either way.
Okay.
And then your decision on what type of coach to gamble on and then what to do with Kirk is impacted by an opening to do damage in the division. Would it make it more likely that you would hang on to Kirk, maybe extend him just to lower the cap hit and bring in more of a win now Doug Pederson type coach than to roll the dice on an unproven coordinator who's never coached, at the head position.
So if Mike is gone, and they bring in a new coach and potentially GM, would you guys prefer that the new coach says, I can work with Kirk and let's give Kirk an extension? Because I think for Kirk to stay, he has to get an extension. I don't see a way that he plays on that cap hit in the last year of his contract. Would you prefer that? Or would you prefer that the Vikings Viking and find a veteran QB, a guy who's good, not great, but good and solid, and can build out the rest of the roster, though, because that guy's contract is not much? Which would you guys prefer?
I would almost prefer the GM to work with Kirk Cousins if that is the case. I don't want to go down the road of a solid quarterback and build out the rest of the team, because you can only go so far with that. And we can say whatever it is we want about Kirk. He's a top 7 quarterback in the league right now. Going from that to, I don't know, take your pick, and Andy Dalton, who is that solid quarterback that we're talking about here. Sure. That's way too much. And it almost feels like we're going back to the old days of Christian Ponder and, okay, let's just add other players, or Tavares Jackson, or quarterbacks like that, where I'll take Kirk Cousins over option B.
So I have, hell, everyone, the audience knows how I feel about Kirk Cousins. I have major reservations, regardless of what kind of money he's making or cap hit. Like, I think there are some major potential just like checkmate flaws with his leadership and with his inability to rise above pressure. And, I think those things are always going to be there. However, my answer to Judd's question is I would take a 1-year shot, lower his cap number, and I get that it's not a 1-year thing because you'd be lowering his cap number and then pushing money into 2023-24, but there's always ways to trade him or offload that contract for a 7th-round pick or something. I would bring in an offensive-minded head coach, lower Kirk's cap number so you can do some damage in free agency, and make a run at that thing in an Aaron Rodgers-less NFC North in 2022 and see, is there another level to this offense if you've got the right people scheming and building a relationship with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and then pour the resources into offensive line. Go find an actual right guard in free agency that is 28, 29 years old, knows what he's doing, isn't an experiment like an Oli Udoh. And if it doesn't work, then you find another quarterback after 2022. If you have to trade Kirk, whatever, if you have to hang on to him for another year while you groom the young quarterback, that's probably the route that I would take.
There is another level to this offense, and I think there's another level to this quarterback. And I talk about Doug Pederson so much. My in-laws, they're all Eagles fans. I watch the Eagles very closely, and I'm here to tell you right now, Nick Foles, if you remember Nick Foles, first he was with Chip Kelly, not bad with Philadelphia the first time. Then he went to Kansas City or St. Louis. He kind of traveled to a couple of teams. Okay, yeah.
St. Louis.
And then came back to the Eagles and with Doug Pederson. And that's why coaching is everything. Because with Carson Wentz, it just wasn't there with Pederson and the Eagles before Wentz got hurt anyway. But they went to the playoffs in back-to-back years with their backup quarterback, Doug Pederson, with Nick Foles. That dude balled out. I think he could do the same thing for this quarterback. And if he can't, then you can say, all right, we've done everything we could for you, Kirk Cousins. Now we're going to go ahead and move on. But I think there's another level to this dude. And I think letting go of him prematurely until you find a coach that actually wants to work with him, I think you'd be shooting yourselves in the foot.
And Timberwolves for Life says, another level to a 33-year-old quarterback, he is who he is. Just to be very clear,
I'm telling you, man.
I said another level to the offense. If you can listen, he's amazing when he's not pressured. It's not realistic to expect there to be no pressure, but it is realistic to try and reduce the amount of times he's pressured in a game in a season. And I think that would be the goal. And then on top of it, are there ways, to what Randy was saying, that just a more competent offensive-minded coach could sit down with him in situations, whether it's third downs or fourth quarter comeback situations, or, hey, bright lights, great defense, you're getting pressured, it's prime time. How can we be better in those situations? Like, he's never really had that in Minnesota. He's never really had someone to sit down, and I'm like the most anti-Kirk guy here, and even I'm acknowledging that. So I am curious to see what that would look like if that's the path the Vikings choose to go down.
I do.
And there's no clear-cut answer in the draft, by the way, either. It's not like there's a Trevor Lawrence staring at you here. So
I do think as fans that what we should hope for, though, is just a starting point, which is to get a coach in here starting next season who understands offense and play calling and knows how to unleash a lot of things here. Not just Kirk, Jefferson. I mean, I still don't understand how last night KJ Osborne just sort of gets lost. Like, okay, if they're going to take away Jefferson, like the Bears secondary had no starters in it, and KJ was just sort of like, no, like that's not acceptable. Dalvin Cook against Pittsburgh, guys, made what I think might be one of the best catches I've ever seen him make. Like somewhere there is a guy that can 1000% catch the football, and it's used sometimes. It's not used consistently. So just from an X's and O's standpoint of watching games on Sundays, I would like to start with, put aside the personalities of like, what's Kirk like, blah, blah, blah. I would just like to see an X's and O's scheme where you're like, this is fun. This is really fun. And we have not seen that in this town since 2009, right? And that was Brett. Brett did that.
He really did.
And I think the last real time that we had a head coach in this town who offensively was a mastermind at that point, Denny. Like Denny
Can't believe you just overlooked Mike Tyson, Brad Childress.
Yeah, and the Ticey regime with Culpepper and
Linehan.
Right?
Hey, Tice was all right, man.
Did some good things.
They put up
did
some points, man. They put up some points.
But I mean, Mike Tice also released the Randy ratio, which, by the way, was a great idea. But why would you tell the public about that? But Denny was, I mean, Denny for his time period, as reviled as he became in this town, Denny did a lot of really, really good things offensively.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd love to see that unleashed.
And what I would say is I've seen the idea of, okay, what about Kellen Moore or Byron Leftwich? I just feel like there's a difference between coordinators, guys that do a really good job of calling the right plays at the right time. There's a difference between that and leading an entire team.
100%.
Yes.
I'm not all about, okay, let's go after the new sexy coordinator that we think can take over. And Sean McVay, that comes around once in a while. But I just feel like guys that prove that they can get players to buy in, a Bieniemy, a Daboll, even a Greg Roman, for God's sake. I mean, that's where you need to go. Because otherwise you're just wasting everybody's time.
Well, that's Realistic Randy. Find him on YouTube. Just search Realistic Randy, and you can follow him. Subscribe to his channel. If you're watching us right now on Purple After Dark on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, hit us up with a subscribe. Click that subscribe button and the like button on this video so we can spread the word about this daily Vikings entertainment, speculation, therapy, you name it. If you missed the Alex Boone episode earlier today, he was on fire, just telling stories and anecdotes, Mike Zimmer stuff, offensive line. It was pretty awesome. So, and you guys are all going to be laughing when Judd buys the Jaguars in like 5 years off the back of Purple Daily's success.
Judd
actually runs their team.
Shad Khan, call me up, man. I'll help you out. You see, I got time.
Duval County. Oh boy.
You know what? No, we're moving. We're not staying in Jacksonville. No. I'm pulling the plug on that godforsaken Georgia town. That ain't Florida. That's Georgia. Okay,
it really is Southern
Georgia. We're really out of there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right, seriously, armpit.
That's a wrap.
Jacksonville.
Purple
Good
After
night.
Dark.
You're awful.
See you guys.